chillin', serial killing, pre-core villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos, by the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' Crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another hip-hop, bebop, dance till you drop episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 360, recorded Monday, February 28th, 2022. Tonight we're talking about the last Patreon pick of the first quarter of the year. This one was chosen by Matt S. The movie is called Get Duked from 2019. Before we get into the review, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy, Randu. How do?
Hey! How's it going, buddy?
It's going well. This is a youthful, energetic film, and I'm excited to talk about hip-hop with you.
Yeah, oh yeah, you know me. I'm famously on the cutting edge of hip hop.
That's
also great that it's an energetic and youthful episode because I am pretty fucking sick, and I'm a sick old man talking about youth culture today. Get ready for that lawn speech all over again.
I'm sick of these damn 1%ers running around, acting like they can do whatever they want. Last but not least, we got our boy calling in from Southern Korea. What's up, Soju?
Hey, bruv, it's your boy Soju.
No nickname, just accent.
Not even Bruv Stains, just
Bruv Stains?
It's your boy Bruv Stains.
God, that's terrible. Ooh, I did terrible.
It'll get better. Just keep doing it. Just throughout the
just keep doing our British, our terrible British accents.
Practice makes perfect, and there's no better time to practice than on a recording that is being broadcast.
This takes place in the Scottish Highlands, though. I could not really tell a difference. Like, if gun to my head,
there's
I don't know that I could. Yeah.
Between that and London?
Yeah, like...
It's just all the same to you.
It's all the same.
Wow.
To this,
what, all white people look the same to you? What's wrong with you? Come on.
They do.
Or Scottish Highlands, London, it's all the same.
Are you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor?
It's not Florida. That's all you know, Bob.
Randy's just running the bumps down.
Nobody once said the word hunker.
Hunker. I can't understand this film. Thanks for picking this flick, Matt. We really do appreciate the support. Before we get down to it, let's hit some housekeeping real quick. The March poll pick is currently posted on our Patreon website. There's like 4 hours left to vote at the time of this recording, which means at the time of you listening to this, you know who won, and we don't right now.
Whoa, you know more than us?
You know more than us, as always.
That's not a change.
More than us. The theme was Nasty Nola for March, and the three movies to vote between were The Skeleton Key, Interview with a Vampire, and The Beyond.
Bob, as of now, how are those numbers looking?
As of right now, The Beyond is pulled ahead by just a couple votes.
Oh, damn.
Interview with a Vampire is still pretty close, and then The Skeleton Key is just definitely not winning this.
Not Tom Cruise, Stains.
I know. Tommy Cruise.
Oh,
I was thinking Skeleton Key. I was like, that's not right. Oh, God, I'm not well.
Sick in the head.
Oh, no.
I guess
I'd be stroking.
I guess we can go ahead and unveil the April poll pick.
Oh, okay. You want to break it early? Go for it, Bob.
Yeah.
Early for us, on time for everyone else.
On time for everybody else, yeah. At the time of you listening to this episode, the April poll pick will be live on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this April. The theme for April is Kids on Bikes, and the three movies to vote between are applause.
Everybody loves that.
They are Super 8, Attack the Block, and Turbo Kid.
Ooh, that's going to be good going in, like getting into the warm season,
Yeah.
April, kids
Spring.
on bikes, got that kind of summery feel heading into that season.
Yeah.
Also, I know it's a ways away, but like Attack the Block would round out this film and
Dude.
Eden Lake pretty nicely.
Yeah.
I know. I really need to work on those British accents for my intros.
Yes, you do. You really, really do. There are no numbers to report because it hasn't gone live yet. But get your votes in, and we'll see what that looks like on our next show.
All right.
So plump, so right.
Thank you, Vincent.
In other Patreon news, we're going to have a brand new mini cast dropping this Friday, March 4th. I recorded a mini cast talking about a new movie that's hitting Shudder on March 3rd. The movie is called Scary of the 61st. And
really? Is that the one? Have you seen it? So you've seen it, obviously. You've recorded the episode.
No.
I just talked
Dumb
about it.
question. Boy, this sounds
Talked
cool.
about it.
Sounds weird,
I mean, there's no minimum bar for content, so we're fine.
That's true. This is a modern day exploitation film that basically is about two younger friends. They're like, early 20s moving into a really nice apartment in Manhattan, and they're getting a great deal on it. And of course, there's a catch. The catch is
What's the catch, Bob?
the apartment used to belong to one Jeffrey Epstein. And they find out about that and then fall down a bit of a rabbit hole.
It's got a death curse!
It's a
I
wild
assume
ride.
this is a new film.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
this is
no,
new, yeah. Brand new.
It's 1963, actually.
Okay.
Weird. Strange coincidence, huh?
Very,
So yeah,
All right.
like I said, that movie is hitting Shudder on March 3rd. The minicast is dropping Friday, March 4th. If you support us on Patreon at the $10 level or above, you get access to that as well as a whole back catalog of Patreon exclusive minicasts. We're over 60 on there now, and we're just adding to that every month. And you can also listen to those episodes on your podcatcher of choice, not just on
Oh,
Patreon.
shit.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
So convenient.
Oh, shit.
What else? What else we got? Brand new episode of Let's Get Physical Media just dropped. Mikey and I were talking about our January pickups. If you guys are listening and have any interest in collecting Blu-rays, 4Ks, DVDs, check out Let's Get Physical Media anywhere you get your podcasts.
Bob, you also promised a giveaway.
Yes, yeah, I was going to say the last thing I'm going to talk about here is, we got a raffle. We're raffling off a Straight Chilling prize pack. This is going to have a bunch of Straight Chilling merch in it, but also just a bunch of horror-related stuff. If you listen to this show, it's going to consist of items that will interest you for sure. All you have to do to enter this raffle is leave us a 5-star rating and a nice little review on iTunes, and you will be automatically entered. If you've already done that in the past, you're going to be entered, so don't worry about that. I'm going to give it one more week. Like, we've actually been getting a pretty serious response to this, so big thanks to everybody that's done this. It really does help people find our show. It's a really quick and easy way to support our show, and it really does help for sure. So thank you guys for doing so. Next episode, we'll go ahead and do the raffle, and then I'll announce the winner, and yeah, we'll see who won.
Sweet.
Around here, that means big money.
That's all I got. Do you guys have anything you want to touch on?
No, my house is clean.
I don't want to touch a thing.
All right. Our house is clean.
This house is clean.
We undercut that bump every week. Multiple times.
It's true. You just say it over and over again.
The house is clean, though, right?
I think
It's a clean.
it's clean.
Pretty clean house.
We cleaned it. We cleaned the house.
Oh, shit. Okay, now it's clean.
Randy left a floater. So yeah, let's get into the main event. We're talking about Get Duped from 2019, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Bob, I don't see this box in your hand.
Get duked. I don't know that this exists on physical media.
I don't think so.
It was purchased by Amazon Studios.
Okay.
Like right after it made its festival run. So I don't think they bothered making a physical copy of it.
It was purchased by. I thought they I thought they full on produced the thing from scratch. I guess not.
No, I believe they purchased it. Thanks a lot, Bezos. Okay. Fucking A.
Must be killing you, Bob. Just can't even get your hands on this physical media.
Evil.
It's killing me. Bezos dies tonight.
Damn.
Wow.
I know. I'm going to be assassinated. You guys are never going to see me again.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Gives me cheap goods.
Get duped
at a human cost. Sorry.
From 2019 with a runtime of 1 hour and 27 minutes. This was written and directed by Ninian Doff. This is his feature film debut. It stars Louis Gribben, Ryan Gordon, Faraj Junjah, and some other folks. The plot synopsis brought to us by IMDb is as follows. An anarchic hip-hop inspired comedy that follows 4 city boys on a wilderness trek as they try to escape a mysterious huntsman. Gentlemen, had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Randy, kick us off.
No, I had no clue about this film. It was definitely a first for me. I don't think I'd even seen a trailer of this one, or if I had, it was completely forgotten. Yeah, I would recommend it. I mean, this is a horror comedy, so that kind of leans to my interests anyway. But generally, I would say, yeah, I think this is a pretty accessible little comedy. I would hesitate to recommend it to horror aficionados over just kind of general people looking for a comedy. I think it's more comedy than it is horror, but that's splitting genre hairs, and I hate that. So generally, yeah, recommend.
All right, Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I think it's a fun little romp. This was not on my radar. Had never seen it before, never really heard of it. And yeah, it's a bit silly. I think it's less horror than even like a Shaun of the Dead, and it's more silly than even like a Shaun of the Dead, so I definitely think it leans more in the comedy lane, and even more like a very youthful kind of comedy.
Yeah.
So, but I would never like sway anyone, or like, I would never like talk anybody out of this, but for horror fans, I don't know. There's not a whole lot of horror to it, but it's still fun. I don't know. It's just a fun little romp. Yeah. Bob, how about you?
Yeah, I'm on the same page. Definitely an enjoyable film. Not super horror heavy. It's definitely about these 4 kids that are just kind of bumbling through the Scottish Highlands and manage to survive. And it's very goofy and lighthearted and funny. And there just happens to be like someone hunting them. There is a bit of gore, but it's not heavy on it. Show up for the laughs, yeah. And if that sounds interesting to you, definitely watch it. I think you will get a laugh out of it. Sounds like a pretty solid recommendation from the Straight Chilling crew. Let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning and get into the rest of the movie.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, do you have that plot synopsis?
The plop synopsis, I do have. I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
Plop it, please.
I'm plopping it. Here we go. 3 problem students and a smart loner are teamed up by their teacher, Mr. Carlyle, to achieve the Duke of Edinburgh Award. In order to do so, the 4 teenagers must work together to traverse the Scottish Highlands over the course of 2 days with nothing but a map. During their adventure, the boys smoke some hash while a hunter watches them from a distance. One of the boys considers himself an amateur rapper named DJ Beetroot. He gives one of his CDs to a farmer they come across. The boys are then confronted by the hunter who's wearing a mask. The boys conclude he is the Duke of Edinburgh, and then he starts shooting at them. The boys concoct a homemade bomb from a recipe they found in the anarchist cookbook. It sets the Duke's leg on fire, and they escape. The boys meet up with Mr. Carlyle, who has a burn on his leg. They become suspicious of him, and Duncan runs him over with a van and presumably kills him. They load Carlyle into the van and try to push it off a cliff, but instead it calmly rolls down a hill and off screen. Meanwhile, the local police department receives notice of a terrorist in the area, and they begin investigating. The boys run into the Duke and Duchess again, concluding they killed an innocent Mr. Carlyle. Ian falls into a ditch, DJ runs into a barn, and Dean and Duncan hide in a cave and eat powdered soup. DJ finds a huge party happening in the barn. It's a bunch of local farmers who now all love his music. He eats some rabbit turds with the farmers and starts tripping balls with them. The Duke and Duchess find Ian, and just before they kill him, DJ and his army of loyal farmers fight them off and steal their weapons. The next morning, the boys decide to hunt down the Duke and Duchess. They chase the two all the way to the shoreline, and they claim the spoiled youth must be cold. The boys retort, explaining that the rich have ruined the earth and have means to fix it, but instead just blame the poor. A larger group of masked hunters arrive, and then the van falls off a cliff and squishes them all. They are all dead. A mangled Mr. Carlyle inside wakes up as the cops arrive. The cops conclude the people under the bus are the terrorists they've been looking for, and the boys are now heroes. On their way home, the boys encounter 4 girls embarking on the same journey and give them the shotgun and sword they took off the Duke and Duchess. Roll credits. What a little romp.
Yeah.
A little coming of age story.
Little romp, yeah.
Okay. I think we've used the word romp about a half dozen times now. You could probably break out the thesaurus on this one.
Nah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't be the only one. We've already brought up Shaun of the Dead briefly, but like there's clearly a lot of connective tissue between this movie and Edgar Wright, which to me is like, I haven't seen too many people attempt his style, and I don't know if it's an intentional attempt or not. I know that this director came from music videos. I watched the making of for their tie-in music video with Run the Jewels, and he mentioned that. So like maybe it's just a product of being in that fast cut sort of situation, but he does that sort of thing. It's very dynamic shooting, dynamic editing going on in this, and it's very, to me, evocative of Edgar Wright, if a little bit like more so, like in terms of like they do a lot of like effects in this, and not like, it's tough to describe. It's like weirdo fucking like, I don't even know what we call those effects where they it's text on screen and shit. Like,
It's funny that you mentioned that. I didn't realize about the director coming from music videos, but it almost what you're talking about is like, the cuts where the like heads get bigger and like move around and talk and stuff, like a lot of like duplications. Trippy. And it's like a very popular music video style right now, or in the past 5 years, it's like become more prevalent and stuff. But it felt, for a movie, it felt kind of out of place. Even kind of like the glitches when they're getting high, I was like, oh, this is like a weird way to show that. Not a typical cinematic way to show that. It very much fell in the realm of music video editing, which is weird that it's like this totally like separate style now. But that kind of brought the youthful vibe, but it also, I think, maybe hurt the movie like as a film. It kept the tone of what the kids were kind of going through, but I didn't feel like that red blue glitch was a particularly interesting way to show them getting high. You know, it really just felt like, oh, this is part of your effects pack, you know.
I kind of liked it, honestly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, for this movie specifically, I did. I don't know that I would appreciate in other movies, and it definitely like makes sense that he would do those kinds of things because he cut his teeth directing music videos. But this movie is like so about music and like hip hop culture, and like these kids like trying to make a name for themselves, like making their little mix CDs and whatnot. And I think like the fact that music is like sort of at the core of this movie, the movie then lends itself to being edited somewhat like a music video, and that doesn't bother me at all. Like, it made sense in context of this movie. I thought it worked to its favor.
Okay.
Yeah, I pretty much entirely agree with that. I think to me, I can understand why it might take somebody out of it, but I wasn't really by the time these sort of edits started happening. I mean, it was excluding the opening credits, which is kind of fair game no matter what.
Yeah.
But once they started, like, it was really when they started like tweaking on the rabbit poop or whatever.
Yeah.
It was not really fully explained at that time.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, I agree with Rob. Like, because of the aesthetic of the movie and because of what had been established up to that point, I was not expecting this movie to take a real hard turn into being like a full scale horror film. So I was comfortable with it, you know, playing fast and loose in a way that is, like I said, kind of like, you know, quick cut Edgar Wright, like kind of pacing.
Yeah.
But with something extra, an injection of not necessarily even hip hop, just like music video aesthetic going in. I don't know. I appreciated it. I thought it was unique for this film and, you know, gave it something to chew on that wasn't, you know, I don't know, that wasn't overblown in my opinion.
Well, and one of my critiques I think that I had, while I was watching us, I was like, I feel like I could like kind of make this better with a few little tweaks. And to kind of go off that idea, because one of them was the character of Dean to me wasn't as particularly interesting as the rest of the kids. You know, they each kind of have their own little thing, and Dean just kind of seems like an extra one. Now, I thought that they did kind of the effects really well in the idea of mixing it with a music video and stuff is there's one point where they're like when they first get dropped off and they almost like becomes a music video where he's just standing on a random rock and shit like that. And I was like, you know, if Dean was the guy who was like filming and editing that shit real quick on his phone and like that was his thing, like, oh, I got to capture all this, or I'm the one who's like wants to stand over here and get this shot. I was like, oh, that maybe would have made it make more sense as he is making this just plain ass, you know, stroll through the woods, trying to make it this kind of dramatic thing. And as he starts to get high, of course, that's how he sees the world because that's what he does. But they didn't, like, other than that one moment where, you know, they tried to do that, like, hey, you know, like, let's make a music video here. And they kind of integrated that. They kind of abandoned that idea. And I was like, oh, well, that maybe would have like at least tied it in more and given this character a bit more of like a character type or something. And I felt like that could have made it more smooth.
I think that's,
you know,
fair.
Go ahead, Bob.
I will say I agree with you in the critique that like Dean was sort of like the least fleshed out character, except for at the very end. I feel like they arrived at the end of the movie and they're like, we haven't done anything with Dean. Let's give him this really impactful speech to deliver. And like, it's a little like on the nose, but I liked that they gave him that to do, I guess. Like I enjoyed when he delivered that. I did want to pose a quick question though. If you found yourself in the Scottish Highlands doing this as a teenager, this trek with like a bunch of idiots, would you eat the rabbit poop?
Nah.
I don't think I want to be drugged out in the Scottish Highlands.
No, I mean that's the thing. Is
so
like,
no.
Squires. The question is predicated on the idea that you are comfortable going on a survival wilderness trek on the influence of a drug, and I'm not confident enough in my skills to.
Now, if I'm hanging out with the farmers, would I?
Yeah. I would chill with every farmer there for sure.
Then
I'd probably get down with it.
If you're hanging out with the farmers, you'd be okay with your breath smelling like you were nibbling on little pieces of shit. People pay crazy money for those coffee beans that fucking monkey shit out. So I mean, why not? You know?
Yeah, but I also think that's stupid. So.
I mean, I'm not eating rabbit shit around a bunch of people my own age.
No.
Give me the 50-year-olds that are complete strangers.
I'm not paying for rabbit shit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not paying for rabbit shit. I'll tell you that much. To go back though, to your point about Dean, I wanted to chime in and say like, yeah, I mean, I feel like you're right to say that he was the least fleshed out of the bunch, but I also don't think that he was like, I think he functioned as of all the boys, like the most like archetypal boy of his kind. You know what I mean? Like I think he was in every kid more than any of the others, which is why it makes sense for him to give that impassioned speech at the end, which kind of speaks for the whole crew. And he also kind of has a little bit of like a Mo Three Stooges thing going, where he's clearly like the boss, so to speak, less so than Mo, obviously, but like, and he you know, I don't know. To me, I think he had enough character for me to feel okay with it, but he could have done with more. And I kind of like your idea of having him film, but I don't think they could have done that because half of the time when people are tripping out, he's not around.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
It doesn't really track on a logical sense there. Not that stopped anything though, because I also thought like, well, I watched the Mitchells versus the Machines. I don't know if you guys have seen that, and it's an animated movie.
Oh yeah,
but they kind of do that. Like they're like one of the main characters does like all these crazy film things or whatever, and they intersplice it with the narration. But sometimes it also just kind of happens, and it's just kind of like accepted as part of the aesthetic. So
I think it would be easier to accept if they had maybe one or two more of those scenes where he was integrating it, and then it just kind of became a part of their reality. Might have made it smoother.
Maybe.
But I kind of want to talk on the idea of this like as a comedy, and like what kind of comedy we're getting here, and like what really landed for you guys and what didn't. There were some moments where I really enjoyed this as a comedy. I feel like a majority of the time I was mostly just getting chuckles, but a couple times that really like had me like laughing pretty good. The bread, when the commissioner comes in and like gives that impassioned like speech about the bread. It was just, that shit killed me. Of like, I haven't had ciabatta. Really? And yeah, I don't know. It's something about that really struck me right.
Like there are babies that have never seen a baguette.
Yeah.
I've never.
That premise was so ridiculous. I loved it.
I don't know. To me, that was like that was kind of a weak series of gags to me. And I don't know. Like to me, I would agree that like this is a chuckly movie, and it's not operating on the level of like a Shaun of the Dead or like, because but it is operating with that speed, and I think that speed when it's like really like, I don't know, when its pacing is perfectly timed or whatever, like that happens a lot. That's when the comedy really hits for me.
Yeah,
and I think the bread thing, like to me, didn't work. Just like at least in that part, because what is going on here, and then the fact that it contributed to the conclusion of the film in a pretty significant way was just kind of confusing to me. How they chose to do that. It's like they made a setup for a payoff, and they did both. Yeah, but the setup doesn't really make sense to me. Like
I can't even remember who was the bread thief. Was it their teacher?
It was Carlisle. Yeah,
Carlisle.
It was their teacher. For some reason, goes out and steals bread. And I guess that maybe that's why his leg was burnt, but that's not really fleshed out either.
Yeah, it's not. There's a lot of moments like this that are kind of just like, I felt like the hunters were not particularly, the actual horror element of this was not particularly fleshed out well either.
They reminded me of Hot Fuzz. We're talking a lot about Shaun of the Dead. I get Hot Fuzz vibes from this more than Shaun of the Dead.
For sure.
But yeah, they don't really flesh out the like group. You know, they come in at the very end, but we don't get a general sense of them. Then they just like, you know, they cull the wild youth, and that's about all we get out of them, you know?
Yeah.
I do like them though, because I mean I think it's a residual thing because Eddie Izzard is the main guy, or is the main like the male figure in that group, the Duke, and it's like and man, I love him. I was excited about his inclusion in this film. And you know, I don't know, like to me, they didn't have as much to do as I would like, and I would say that some of the jokes are either really funny because they're absurdist to me, or they're really like okay because it's a little blunt. Like it's like it's not quite refined enough in some parts, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say about the pacing, is because you're right. Like once it kind of starts to roll, you almost get caught up in the momentum, but it's definitely not in any way like close to as smart as like an Edgar Wright comedy. Yeah, the only one
But it tries to be.
of the kids, the only one who really kind of had me going was Duncan. I really love Duncan, dude.
Yeah.
He sells like he's got the stupid look, even the slack jaw.
His expression is perfect.
It is.
Yeah, it really is. He sells it. And when he hit the teacher with his car, that was another moment that just had me. I was like, I don't know. It was so stupid and ridiculous.
That's again, like I remember hearing somewhere, and I feel like maybe I'm misremembering this, but I'm pretty sure it was Edgar Wright that I heard describe as wanting his comedies to have the pacing of a Simpsons episode. And I could see some of that, especially in that, like that kind of scene where he's like, they're having a vote. And then as soon as the vote's done, Duncan's already in the car driving it towards their teacher, and the teacher's not doing anything about it. And it's just dead. And it's like, that's the kind of shit that really works for this movie, I think. But I did like DJ Beetroot, although I think there's a huge missed opportunity in making a Beatles joke with that name. I don't know why they kind of dodged that for some reason. The beat like
I was okay with that. Yeah, I was like normally kind of split.
His interaction with the farmer, the initial farmer, whatever, that to me didn't land. I feel like it was a little bit like expected. It was like, it felt like they were aiming for UK Office feeling, or not even UK, just like Office sort of cringy thing where it's like, I feel this kid, oh God, this guy doesn't give a shit. And it's like, it doesn't really feel that way. It just kind of peters out.
Him tagging rocks was like funny to me.
the initial like setup with like Beetroot giving the farmer a CD wasn't like extra hilarious, but it paid off so well. I feel
it paid off great.
Like when we see the farmer like all by his lonesome just driving his tractor with his headphones on,
that was great.
Rapping about his dick being a Tyrannosaurus or whatever. Like I love that. And then of course later with the big barn rager and they're all eating rabbit shit and tripping balls was hilarious. I want to circle back to Duncan for a second. Duncan is like a big, he's just kind of an idiot, really. That's sort of his character. But like every other line that he delivers is like, it's very quick and like sly. And if you don't pay attention, like you might miss it. But like the things that he says were fucking cracking me up regularly. Like he was like, after he ran over Carlisle, he was like in the van trying to like make him frown. And they're like, well, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, I'm trying to make him look sad so they think it's a suicide.
And him doing the like, British or England is an island or Scotland is an island. Eventually he'll fall off a cliff or whatever.
He'll find a cliff.
That was he really was kind of the heart of the comedy for me.
Yeah.
He was also like this movie is very like what's a good word for it? It's not at all mean-spirited. Do you know what I mean? Like this movie is like very like approachable and like even like when this movie was starting, I was expecting these kids to be like at least the three that were like troublemakers. Supposedly, the way they positioned them was as like, you know, I thought they would be at least in the same conversation maybe as the Eden Lake kids, where they're just kind of fucked up and they would do whatever just to prove they're badass or whatever. But they don't really go that route. They make them pretty, they make them kids. And I don't know. I appreciated that, I guess, maybe in contrast to Eden Lake. But also, like, it just... Go ahead, Bob.
I just wanted to, like, piggyback on your point. In contrast to Eden Lake, this is, like, this, like, if you saw the trailer or the poster, this might come across as, like, a, quote, hoodie horror movie. But it's almost like an antithesis to that, where the kids are just being dumbass kids. And they end up, like, kind of being accidental heroes in a way. Like, but... They're like framed as the baddies, I guess, because they're just idiots trying to get stoned, but they're just kids,
Well, they're framed the same way. Like looking back at it now, I almost feel like they're like Bill and Ted type characters.
Yeah,
like they're good natured, but kind of stupid and not like just kind of out for a good time without really thinking it through. And Bill and Ted are probably smarter than these kids, but I don't know. I kind of like that dynamic where it's like I went into this thinking it was going to be much more brutal than it was, much more graphic, much more like horror than it actually was. And what I got was kind of like a slobs versus snobs movie by way of Edgar Wright in the UK. And it's like, I don't know. I was into that. I think that's kind of like, especially in the drought of big comedies we have right now, it feels like this is like a needed respite from like somewhere sort of like why Jackass blew up like it was. It's like, that's even more stripped down, obviously, the new Jackass or whatever, and that's why people are responding to it. But I think people would respond to this too if they kind of knew out of the gates that this is a lighthearted comedy, and it works to me.
I will say that direction helps a lot of this film's overall shortcomings for me. The fact that it was so kind of good-natured and pleasant and this kind of coming of age saved some of the silliness for me. When I'm watching a comedy, I'm usually not like crazy about just straight silliness. I like the more kind of smart Simpsons cleverness. Yeah. And a lot of the things in here are just quite silly. But the good nature of it really glossed over a lot of problems for me and just kind of left me with a more general positive vibe than, had they try to make these characters more like troublemakers or something like that. So it definitely worked in this movie's benefit.
Yeah.
For me.
And I think like, I totally agree. I think like the main thing that I can like, that I felt comfortable sort of glossing over because of its sort of general good naturedness and sort of like agreeableness in general. Like the thing that helped me overcome was sort of the ending, because I could tell with the ending, like they really did try and like pay off everything. They tried to do like, I'm sorry. I feel bad for comparing to Edgar Wright constantly, but like, like Shaun of the Dead is famous for being like the perfect culmination of all of its subplots and everything. It perfectly pays everything off and all that stuff. And Hot Fuzz is pretty close to that too. Even World's End to some extent, like, that's like, I think clearly what they were going for, if I'm not mistaken. And it just sort of like some of the subplots don't really resolve in a way that to me makes any kind of sense, or it feels like the van thing. Like, I know it's like kind of funny because they set it up with, I don't follow it. And they just kind of like walk away from it rolling. That's fine. But it was rolling for 2 days, I guess, wound up in a circle somehow and somehow hadn't fallen off of anything or tipped over. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I feel like it strains believability just a little too much for me. And that's kind of tough to do in a movie that sets itself up this way.
Carlisle being alive at the end killed me.
Yeah.
That shit was pretty good. Yeah. It was pretty funny. Yeah. Especially when it's just like, because it's gruesome.
It is.
It's the kind of, that's where the fun nature kind of saves it, because he's just spitting up blood and everything. It's ridiculous. Like it's
the cop says to him like, well, we should get you to the hospital. And he responds with just like vomits blood. That was a pretty good moment.
That shit killed me pretty good too. Another thing I think we should talk about, and kind of a ding for this movie a little bit. Talking about like, I mean, they even sell it as this, drenched in or influenced by hip hop and all this stuff. And obviously this guy makes, music videos. Like, even that style is based in hip hop music videos. Like we were talking about the editing style, like it's specifically, based in hip hop. But I felt that there was a lack of variety, and British hip hop, a lot of it was Run the Jewels. And I was like, well, I mean, that's okay, I guess. But it just felt, for an indie film that's about British boys wandering the Scottish Highlands, I was like, I don't know. It felt like if it was the same thing in an Australia film and every track was like Eminem or something, it's like, I guess like this is fine, but it didn't
wanted them
to represent or capture the hip hop culture. It was like, I mean, this is a big promo for like Run the Jewels half the time, which I love Run the Jewels, not knocking that, but I was just like, I don't feel like it really delivers on that promise.
Yeah.
I don't think that I don't know. Go ahead, Bob.
I mean, obviously people listen to music from around the world, no matter where you're living at.
Sure,
I get the critique, and I think honestly, if I had to wager a guess, just looking at the music videos that this guy's made for artists, he just had contacts and he leaned on those contacts.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
But I mean, I love the music that's in this movie, regardless that it's like pretty much all American artists, you know.
Yeah.
It's I guess that's a fair critique, but they're all bangers, man. Like I really I love the soundtrack, so I don't want to knock it too much for that, really. I think it's good.
I'm a certified not engaged with hip hop kind of guy. I just never have developed that interest. So like to me, it didn't register. None of that did. I couldn't have told you this was from the Jewels. I had no idea until I watched the music video later. But all that said, like I see what you're saying. Like, yeah, I kind of wish that they had represented a little bit, but at the same time, I also kind of feel like the movie is really centered on them being kids more than it is on them being hip hop fans. You know what I mean? Like, and kids don't like, they're going to listen to hip hop from wherever, especially like from the homeland of the genre. Like I feel like that's not too out of control to think that British youths would be into that.
On the flip side, I will say this stuff that they did for DJ Beetroot, like that felt very true British hip hop, like the sounds, like the beats and stuff was heavily British influence. And that's why I was like, okay, you know, I get where they're going with this. Like it's so distinct from, but then it's just like, and then Run the Jewels, which I agree with Bob from most of the time, the way they were integrating those songs with the edits, with what was going on, it worked pretty well because again, these kids are just wandering through the Highlands. So it's ridiculous in its nature, but it's kind of in their minds too. You know, they think themselves as badass in a way, and it kind of like works for what's going on. So like, I liked it in a general sense. I just, for a movie that kind of promised, like almost kind of uses that as one of its like promotional pillars, like this is why we're different, and to have a little bit of that in the whole kind of like DJ Beetroot stuff, I was like, hey, I dig on that. I like that they're really like pulling from this like this kid's authentic in a way.
So to add to that, a dash of trivia real quick, the original stuff that wasn't like Danny Brown or Injury Reserve or, you know, Run the Jewels or whatever. All the original stuff was produced by a friend of the director's. I believe he's a producer by the name of, I think it's S-Type is what he goes by. And he's Scottish, so I guess he does, you know, he pulls from that influence, and that, you know, just goes to what the point you're making, basically.
It felt very authentic. Like when they were playing that kid stuff, I was like, this sounds British. Like just the style is like completely different. And they tried to be fair, they tried to use American artists that are more spastic in that way. Like Danny Brown, like Injury Reserve, Run the Jewels stuff. And like, and especially Danny Brown has that like wild, more crazy kind of sound. Which fits more with like a British kind of sound, but it really was about the beats and stuff. I was like, that's authentic. Like that really sounds legit.
Do your thing, cuz.
Do your thing, cuz.
Did you like the title of DJ Beetroot's EP, Cocktails?
I don't know. I liked that his interactions. I mean, some of it felt a little cringe, but him tagging rocks and shit like that was, I don't know. It was a different element to a coming of age story.
Can relate.
That you like, I don't know. I liked it. It was precious in a way.
I liked him walking around at the beginning trying not to get dirty. That was my favorite bit from that.
That was pretty good.
White.
I was like, that's fucking hilarious. Why would you show up to this thing wearing that
and not wanting to wear the boots? Like who's gonna, like his explanation, like who's gonna see me out here? What's DJ Beetroot? It's like there's no one. There's literally no one. There's not even a signal for like you could take a video and send it out to anyone. Like, you know, there's just no way.
I'm trying to think of what my favorite like moment in this movie is, and it's split between two pretty obvious choices. I think one being the end point where the slobs versus snobs speech, the big impassioned speech at the end from Dean. I had just thought like, man, like. I don't know how, if you guys have seen National Lampoons or like Animal House is what I'm referring to. Sorry. Animal House or any of those type of movies, Caddyshack, you know, like they always have some sort of like you rich snobs don't know what it's like sort of thing go on. And it's, man, I just like, that's the minute that it really clicked for me what this movie actually was. The whole time I kind of like settled into the tone or whatever, but I was like, okay, I feel like that's what they're doing is they're taking a National Lampoon's Animal House, putting it in the Scottish Highlands, putting some hip hop editing involved in it and just setting them loose. So it kind of makes like things like the things that don't hang together perfectly more palatable that way. Like it just feels like, okay, I have walked down this path before and it just looks a little different.
And to that point, I think both of these things always come off as like a positive and a negative for me, because in that way, I feel like I can see the influence. Like obviously we say Edgar Wright and in that kind of way, I do see those kind of like more innocent feeling comedies from a bygone era and stuff like that. That like, I can see those influences, but what I feel like, And I feel like they're treated in a very respectful, like in a reverence kind of way to those things. But I don't feel like they ever land any of those perfect, kind of like the hip hop thing. It's like, okay, I see that y'all are fans of hip hop. I know that y'all are into this, but this, or, you know, I see that you're fans of Edgar Wright. You like this kind of comedy, but you don't quite land it. Or I see you're fans of like those kind of comedies, you know, and then give that speech and like but you don't quite land it. I feel like each one of those comes with a positive and a negative each time for me.
No, I totally agree. I feel like everything that they try to do in this movie, for the most part, feels like an imperfect simulation of something else. Yeah, which is like could ruin a movie that's trying to take itself more seriously than this one. But because this thing doesn't, and because what it's emulating are movies that shouldn't be taken seriously in the first place, whose very existence speak to not taking it too seriously. I mean, that to me puts me over, and I'm like, okay, I'm down with that. And, you know, like, I don't know, the Edgar Wright stuff or whatever, like, it's not as clever as Edgar Wright. It's not, it's not as tight as an Edgar Wright, but it doesn't really have to be in order, because it's also evoking this other kind of comedy and this other kind of film that to me is like, they could do any number of things that would not fly in another kind of movie or in an Edgar Wright movie even.
There's definitely like a level of heart to this movie that boosts it for me. Like if it was lacking in that department, it would just be like a few chuckles and that's about it. But there is like one moment towards the beginning of the third act where the three like sort of doofus kids are talking to Ian, who's sort of like the outcast in this movie because he's like the smart kid and he's actually there because he wants to be there and he wants to do good in life and, you know, whatnot. And these kids are like talking to him. They're like, hey, you know, why do you think we're all friends? Because like, you know, we're the losers at school. People don't want to talk to us or hang out with us. And they sort of like bond because they realize that they're all sort of like outliers in their own way. Yeah. They bond over that. And I think that lends a lot of heart to the movie. And then also like Dean, you know, we already kind of talked about Dean, but like he does mention a handful of times that like he's just going to pack fish because that's what his father did, and that's all he can amount to, and he's fine with that. And I feel like that, plus the speech at the end that he delivers, is like very easy to identify with for a lot of people, which adds to the heart as well.
It's a disillusionment.
Yeah,
like at the core of a lot of youth culture across the globe.
Yeah.
Well, and even I think I don't think they worked this in very well, but they could have leaned more into, I mean, even the wish to be associated with hip hop. I mean, hip hop is a big escape for a lot of people who feel like they have no other choices. You play sports, you become a rap artist, or you fucking, you know, like you just have a menial job where you're never going to escape a life of poverty. And so these kids can, you
play the lotto, you don't.
Exactly. These kids' connections and that, but they'd never hammer that home, where that could have been a thing where, you know, if they wanted to ride that more, where Dean was supposed to be the true essence of what these kids were going through, you know, the life of poverty, and like this is what we're clinging to as a hopes to escape that in any kind of way, but they didn't. You know, like you can see it because you know the world, but as far as the context of the movie, they didn't really ride that heartstring in a better way. I don't know.
I see your complaint, and I mean, I can totally understand it. It's not by no means wrong, but to me, it's like I keep going back to that speech as like, I don't know, like I'm like the correlations I see between Edgar Wright movies and this, and then these like silly 70s, comedies. Like it's that second one that really makes all that evaporate for me. I would have had that same complaint probably that you just described if it wasn't for that. The idea that like there's some sort of like light, not light, but like they don't really overtly talk about class in this movie until that moment where all of a sudden somebody crystallizes a dumb speech about exactly like the dynamic at play, the slob versus snob thing. Like, oh, you think you're so good because you got this sword and fuck you and all that shit. Like, I think that's like perfect. You don't like in one of those movies that I feel like they're trying to emulate. None of them would have spent more than that speech talking about that. And it wouldn't be expected to, because that's just not the kind of movie it is.
Yeah.
So to me, it's easy to see that as a valid critique, but it's also easy for me to disregard it.
And that's how I feel like a lot about things in here, where I'm like, oh, it's a negative, but it's kind of a positive. And like, oh, it's, like I keep going back and forth with these things. Like, with my own critiques, it's like, yeah, I don't know. I see them both as positives and negatives.
I think that it's pretty clear that. Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Maybe because it's just a light romp. I don't know. Just throwing that out there.
And the thing is, like, I feel like this movie definitely could have tightened up some nuts and bolts. I think that's pretty undeniable, because like we can point to any number of things that, with a few simple screws and, twists of the lever, you kind of got it to a more amicable place for our critiques anyway.
Yeah.
But, I don't know how many movies this guy has directed before. I think if I'm not mistaken, this is his first.
Number one. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So I'm pretty fucking impressed by that, to be perfectly frank. Like, this is good shit for a debut director for a full feature film. Like, I really enjoy it. And I think that he did a great job. And I wonder if, if some future refinements would bring some of these things to bear and just allow him maybe the budget and bandwidth to tighten those nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of it overall.
Yeah, I think the director ultimately achieved like what he was going after, which is, a very like breezy comedy that moves at sort of a breakneck speed, entrenched in like this like young frenetic kind of energy and hip hop music. And I think he really captured that kind of perfectly. And then there's like a little bit of heart and a little bit of message thrown in to boot. And you kind of get this
just to give it package.
An arc. Yeah, totally.
To boot.
I think it's there. And I think this movie like lives by the chemistry between these like four kids. I think they all are cast well, and they have like a solid chemistry between them, and like their dynamic is what really makes the movie succeed. I don't know. I think the casting and the performances specifically from those four kids, I think like really bring this movie through. Yeah,
Bob, can I tell you something that occurred to me when I watched this film, which is that Duncan and his frequent use of the fork, saying it's well sharp.
Yeah.
And all that shit was, first of all, very, very funny, but also that it led to him, like, they're like, oh, we got weapons. I got the sword and I got this pistol or this rifle. And he's like, and I've got the fork. And he's like, why didn't you say it out loud? Why didn't you yell it? Shout it. You shouted the other ones. Reminded me very much of a former roommate of ours. Very, very deep to my core. I was like, damn. Duncan is basically our old roommate at his most drunk and or stoned.
We have a Duncan.
That's pretty accurate.
And I love the boy.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. We all do. He would definitely throw like just soup mix into your mouth and tell you to mix it up with saliva.
Oh, God.
He would do that.
He tore that into a dying man's mouth that is filled with blood. That was really funny. I'd forgotten about that shit. Oh, and also, like, we didn't even talk about the cops, really. Like, the lead, sort of like the main, like, pivotal cop is the mother from The Witch, that actress, and Game of Thrones. And I like her. I thought she did a pretty good job, but it was, like, maybe a little bit confused of a character. I feel like the writing for that character seems confused because, I don't know, like, I got what they were doing at first, but the bread thing, I don't know. To me, like that's the weak link of the whole movie for sure, is the whole storyline of the cops. Because I think they try to do a few different things, but they don't quite fit together in a way that to me makes us enough sense for cohesion. They're supposed to, on some level, be the straight characters, or at least be not the straight characters, but they're supposed to be the buttoned up characters. They're supposed to be acting out on logic instead of impulse, like the kids, right? That's what I would think. But it seems like they're just as impulsive, but not necessarily to a comedic effect. Maybe the guy is more comedic, but the lady cop, the main one, she's just kind of like doggedly determined to think that Duncan MacDonald is like, and it's like,
well, and that was kind of that was kind of the silly element to me, is them, because the kids you can brush away as they're kids and they're naive and they're, kind of stupid in some ways. But my favorite gag from them was the wall and like the pedophile, like their little slips they would slide in and shit like that.
That felt very much like an Edgar Wright thing.
It was the pedophile terrorist urban gang riot zombie.
Well, and the fact that they had like a bread thief printout, like that shit, I don't know. That gag, like that physical
gag. Arsehole was one of them.
Naturist.
Yeah, but they mostly fell flat for me. I didn't really get what their purpose in the film was supposed to be.
I think
I agree. Like,
jokes.
Go ahead, Bob.
I think they were there for the jokes, honestly.
Yeah,
and
but they weren't that strong.
Most of the time,
fillery.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably was filler for sure. They have this like heart to heart in the police car, and the lady cop is like, "We really need to focus. We gotta maintain focus and keep a watchful eye." And then in the background, we see the van just like roll down the hill.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was pretty funny.
And over a sheep that's like baaing and kills it. I don't know. I like some of the jokes land for me, but I guess it is like it doesn't pay off. In the end, they conclude the bread thief thing, but it's not like that funny, I guess.
Well, that's like, to me, like that's the thing that I don't like. I mean, I almost wish that they were little vignettes of the cops trying and failing, because to me, that speaks more to like the Smokey and the Bandit, like silly comedies of an earlier time, where it's like, you don't have to show much, just show like a cop stepping in shit, or like show their pursuers doggedly determined, very serious, and then getting a pie thrown on their face. That sort of thing like would have worked fine for them, but they went for something a little more elevated that needed to pay off in an Edgar Wright sense, and to me it just didn't, because I don't really understand what those characters are after. I know that the main woman is like overly doggedly determined to get a real dangerous criminal, and I don't really understand what the guy's purpose is, and the old guy just like, I don't know, like to me, like they're pretty loose, and and it's a movie filled with fairly loose characters, but they seem extra loose, and I don't really know what their motivations are generally, besides the main woman, and she is like simultaneously like very serious, but also like inept, but not always in a funny way, just kind of like in a, I don't know. The funniest thing she does is she mistakes the soup for heroin. And I'm like,
heroin spiked with chicken. I think,
but otherwise she's very serious, and she's like, we know what we saw. I'm like, I don't know.
I think ultimately they're both excited to actually like police something bigger than a bread thief, because they mentioned like it's the Highlands, nothing ever happens here.
Yeah.
And when they get a whiff of like a big case, they're like just really excited to go solve it.
I just totally reframed their whole dynamic in my head, actually, and I'm wondering if they were meant to be a critique of the institution of the police, the same way that the Duke is a critique of like the wealthy, because there's that one, like a few scenes where they obviously do something stupid. They're chasing the wrong guy. They're like making dumb mistakes or whatever. But there's that scene where the guy is like trying to fucking, he's like, oh wait, I took like, there's a gang. Oh wait, I took training in this. Have you seen any black males in hoodies?
That was the one kind of like, potent.
Whoa, That's like there's critique there, and like I wonder if that was what their purpose was supposed to be, and maybe it got pared back, or maybe it just didn't play like they wanted it to,
or even
because
if they could have found like exactly
worked.
what they were looking for, but because they were a bunch of like suburban white kids, it went totally past their gaze,
dude. Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
Well, except I don't know. I wonder about all that. It's like. I feel like that's the area of the movie that I most want to see get another pass of the script if I'm reading this as a script.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything else you want to touch on before we rate this thing?
I think we covered most of it.
Pretty much.
I don't want to touch a thing. I think I've covered that.
Don't touch anything. All right, let's rate this movie out of 5. Get duked. Juice, kick us off. How do you feel?
All right. I liked this movie. It was nice. And also too, like we said, you don't get a lot of comedies these days, and coming of age story was nice. And just a little bit of silliness and stuff. It felt refreshing in a kind of nostalgic way. But as a film, all of the critiques I think that come back still stand for me, where it's just like, I can almost see the strings in a lot of this, and in a lot of ways I respect it and appreciate it, but I think the craft is not quite polished, and I felt that there were a lot of holes in each one of these kind of themes and elements where it just didn't quite pull off what it needed to in almost every kind of way. The parts of the comedy were really strong, but then also really weak for me. Parts of the themes and critiques and social commentaries and overall storylines and things all had that kind of same element where it was like there are really strong moments, there are really weak moments, but overall, like they're tied together in a very loose kind of way. It just kind of goes back and forth for me between positive and negative. Overall, I liked this film, but it's got a lot of problems. And I think I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5.
All right. 3 from Juice.
Bomb out of 5. What are you giving Get Duked?
What do you Duke and give?
Duke in the give. Overall, I enjoyed this movie. It's light, it's breezy, which is sort of refreshing, given like the other things that we've talked about this year already. Holy shit, man. We've like tackled some heavy stuff. So like that was nice. Thank you.
Yeah,
Matt.
Sure. Yeah, I did appreciate the pick. I will say that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I overall like really dig the comedy in this movie. Like it's not bust a gut funny, but there's like consistent chuckles. I enjoy the needle drops, the music that was just throughout this entire movie. I thought was like really baller, and it like I totally forgot how much I love that Injury Reserve record. So I've just been listening to that all week. Listen to that record. It's fucking great. I think these kids have like a really nice dynamic between the four of them. I think they were cast really well, and they do a lot with what they were given. Eddie Izzard is like almost barely in this movie, and he's got a handful of lines. Underused, yeah. But like even the lines that he does have, like he's not even really hardly saying anything, but the way that he delivers it is funny to me. Like there's that scene where like they're trying to break into the little cabin, and they throw a rock through the door, and that then allows Eddie Izzard and the Duchess to like, go into their little crawl space, and he's like, "Oh, lovely!" Like it's just little like inflections. Like I don't know. Obviously, he's like a hilarious person, and he's been doing this for decades. So like, yeah, duh, he's funny. Could have used more of it though. Also, just like more of the Duchess and more of like their whole like coven of like 1%ers or whatever you want to call them. Would have been cool to like get more of that, and maybe a little less the cops. Maybe balance that out a little bit. I think this is kind of interesting, like, hoodie horror being a subgenre of horror that we've just discovered on this podcast anyways this year and has been kind of like a topic of conversation that like resurfaces. It's interesting to like look at this movie through that lens as almost like an inverse kind of hoodie horror. I don't know, it's something that's been on my mind. I think it's hilarious that these kids all eat rabbit shit and get super stoned, which is completely false, I would assume, anyways.
You would assume, huh, Bob?
I would assume. There is like one strange edit in this movie that really bothered me. After the big like DJ Beetroot party in the barn, and then like he and all of his farmer friends like haul ass to save Ian before he's killed by the Duke and Duchess, they sort of like are about to come to blows, and like the movie just like hard cuts to the next morning, and like we don't really get any action in that sequence, and like that is like a huge missed opportunity because like the whole movie's leading up to that, really, and then in the end where you think you're gonna get that again, they all just get squished by a van, and like so you like never have that payoff, really. It just sort of like pivots away from it twice. Maybe it's like a budgetary thing. I don't know.
They were afraid to let the kids become violent.
Maybe that could be. Yeah. That might be it.
Because that's like the antithesis to like what we're saying about like the hoodie horror inverting.
Yeah.
These are demure, domesticated children.
That's fair. Yeah. There's like a couple gore gags in here. Duncan is the funniest to me. Almost every line he says is pretty damn funny. I think I'm gonna come in here the same as Juice, though. I'm gonna give this a 3.5. Like, I don't have a whole lot of negatives. I've got a few, but overall, this movie is successful in what it wants to be. But it's just sort of like a breezy, like enjoyable comedy. So I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. I think. Randy, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of two minds about this movie as we've sat here talking about it, because like I said, like, I kind of like that it's low stakes, that, what little, social commentary is like a quick punch or quick flick on the nose and then it's out. It kind of fits that realm of movie making. Like it uses like that language, but it also uses the language of like more clever comedies, more like, the Hot Fuzz or whatever, I think is a more pointed version of this same tale in many ways. And I also think that like Tucker and Dale versus Evil is kind of a similar tale in its own ways, but it doesn't have an overabundance of characters weighing it down, maybe. Or I'm sorry, Tucker and Dale doesn't. This movie does maybe have a few too many characters that are not fleshed out enough. So but with that in mind, I'm like, I'm thinking about all the ways they could have made social commentary with the police force or whatever. And they kind of did. Like, it seems like maybe they were kind of going for that, because on top of what I just said, they also had the mistaking Duncan McDonald as, a Mideastern terrorist specifically, and shit like that. And just like general ineptitude, having zombies or whatever. Like, I think maybe that's what they were going for, but it doesn't really fully feel that way. It doesn't feel like that. And I feel like if they had pushed that harder, that would also require rewrites of Dean, to Justin's point, where like, or other aspects of this movie where like, give him a little bit more something, maybe make it clear that like, I come from the slums and this is like, I'm only here because I have like, it's better to be here than at home with my dad, or so. I don't know. Like, there's a million ways you could flesh that character out while also pushing in that direction too. So I don't know whether I'd like it better this way or the other way. To me, I do like what I got though. I think Rob's right to say that Eddie Izzard was underutilized, and I kind of wish I had seen more of that coven, like you said, but that kind of lends itself to the social commentary aspect. So I'm trying to have it both ways. Maybe I can't. So I'm just kind of happy with what I got. I think that all of these kids are pretty damn good actors. They aren't always given the best lines to deliver. They aren't always given, like their interactions aren't always like spot on hilarious. But they're really going for it. And I think that they do a good job, like giving most of the kids a very distinctive personality and a distinctive journey to go on. I don't know. It just kind of feels like maybe there's two straight men sometimes and there only needs to be the one. What is the kid, the homeschooled kid's name?
Ian.
Yeah. So like, he's kind of a point of view character. He's definitely the straight man, but Dean also kind of fills that role sometimes. He's like, I don't know. There's some confusion there. Anyway, I'm rambling too long here. Overall, I really had a great time with this movie. I think that it's like, I'm always in favor of a horror comedy. I think that what they're trying to do in this is largely successful, but not successful enough in one direction or the other for me to really feel like it's stuck a landing that it was trying to stick. So all things considered, I just fully agree with these guys that it's a 3 film. It's a 3 for me.
Yeah, so with Randy's 3, that's going to make our aggregate a 3.0. We do need to hear what the man of the hour has to say about Get Duked. This is something new.
Duke of Edinburgh?
The Duke of Edinburgh called. This is something
from
new,
the grave.
Something new we're doing this year. We just started. If you pick a flick, we're encouraging you guys to either call in or send an email giving us your thoughts and final ratings on the movie that you chose. Matt decided that he wanted to leave a voicemail, and we're going to go ahead and hear what he has to say about Get Duked right now.
Hey guys, it's Matt. You're reviewing my movie this week. I don't really believe in punishing y'all and making y'all watch horrible shit for no reason just to be mean. So I picked one of my favorite movies. Like last time, I picked Jacob's Ladder. Y'all scored that really high, I believe. We should all be using our powers for good and getting people to see movies they might not have seen, opposed to making them watch garbage so they have to cry after they get done watching it. Anyway, Get Duked. This movie is just big dumb fun. It's a slasher comedy. Those are really rare. The only other one I can think of is Happy Death Day. This movie flows great. It starts off with this weird dread where like everyone's carefree, but there's like some shit about to happen in the background, and only one of the 4 fucking hobbits know what's going on or can sense it anyway. And then, it delves into where they all realize they're in way over their fucking head and they're all kind of just dumb and stupid. And then they start to find themselves and realize that they can rise up and overcome these weird ass challenges in front of them. I just love that. I love the soundtrack too. The soundtrack really makes that flow work. And so does the drug use and the effects they use for the drug use. It really heightens the emotions that the director wants you to feel. All that aside, you can tell that this is the director's first movie. It's not perfect. That political speech at the end, I think, actually hampers the message he was trying to tell about class. And it would have been better if he hadn't just like fucking fisted it in there like some kind of chocolate strawberry or something. The bread thief storyline, I think they could have dropped that altogether. I didn't find any of that funny except for the speech that the sergeant gives when the sergeant shows up. You can tell that actress is trying so hard not to laugh, and it makes me so happy to see her go through that. Maybe that bread thief storyline is some kind of British humor that just doesn't land right over here. I don't know. Regardless, I love this movie. I gave it a letter grade of a 92, which is an A-. On y'all's weird-ass 5-star scale, that's a 4.6. So let that go into your little rankings. There's no yabos, or that would have been a 5.1, which is impossible. If people watching this movie loved it, they should go see Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, because it's basically the American version.
And that's the end.
Matt
what a sweetheart
got cut
this
off.
Matt character is.
Yeah, what a great voicemail, Matt. That was filled with all kind of wonderful things.
Very, very solid. The chocolate strawberry. I love that. That's
That
gonna
got
be
us.
infamous. You know, it's.
We all took a second and then just fucking busted the gut
Yeah.
behind the scenes. It legit for me. I was like, chocolate strawberry. What the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
I was thinking ice cream flavors. I was like, why is he talking about ice cream?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. See last episode, sports fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
I was going to say voicemails last episode, but yeah, thanks for picking the flick, Matt. Definitely appreciate that you don't choose to torture us. You have the power, and you choose to do good. We thank you.
I know that's just the kind of guy Matt is.
We appreciate you, pal. I also think you had some pretty good, well thought out points as well. If you haven't, please watch Tucker and Dale versus Evil. That is definitely in the wheelhouse of this film, and I think you'll enjoy it. But yeah, I don't know. There were some points there, but we've kind of covered them. So
I
like the effects.
I want to second Matt's recommendation for Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. If you like this movie or Tucker and Dale, it's very much in the same vein. It's got that sort of like simplistic sort of like humor to it. Obviously there's zombies in that movie though, and it's like a coming of age story as well. So it's got, kind of a similar vibe to this. It's hilarious. Check it out.
Wow, Bob, spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
There are zombies in the zombie movie.
I didn't know it was a zombie movie.
Who could tell? Nobody could tell.
I've never seen it. I've never heard of this movie before.
Thank you, Matt. Hope you're doing well, man. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users have to say about Get Duked.
Certified.
All right, everybody. This is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to give these gentlemen the chance to guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate scores are, both critics and users, for Get Duped on RottenTomatoes.com. Now, again, I like to hammer this home. This is the aggregate of who thinks of positive reviews to negative reviews. So let's start with Justin today, and we're going to go to the critics. There are 95 reviews. So Justin, 95? What do you think those 95 are doing for him?
I think this is generally going to be positive. I think this is going to go higher than the Straight Chillin' crew. And I'm going to put it around the 80 mark. 80.
80. All right. Bob, you going over? You going under? Where are you going?
I'm going to go lower, I think. I don't think it's like crazy low, but I think it's a little lower than that. I'll do a 75.
75. All right. Well, Bob, you lost it. You lost it big time, buddy. It's an 87%.
Whoa, that's a liar, and I thought it was. But
wow, underwater hell. Interesting. Yeah, that's a certified fresh film, actually.
Damn, yeah. That's hot.
Yes. I'll read the critics consensus after this. So, Bob, we're going to start with you for the audience score. There are 250 plus audience scores for this film. Where do you think they're landing? Redeem yourself.
I'll just steal the 80. I'll steal the 80.
Stealing the 80. My God. Justin, what about you?
I think the audience is going to be lower on this. 72.
72. All right. Well, Bob, you fucked it. You fucked it on up. You really fucked the pooch. This is a 65%.
Oh, wow. Whoa. 65. That's a hell yeah. Sweet.
No, I'm not hell eating that because that seems low.
Yeah, that seems so. Yeah. Well, honestly,
but that's not my fault.
That's your fault, actually.
Yeah, that's about where we ranked it.
Yeah.
And we are the audience.
I don't know. I just feel like more people should like it. Especially like the audience. I'm surprised that the audience is the more critical group out of this.
Actually, yeah, that is kind of surprising that it's such a big gap.
I would have seen it inversed, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I watched this film, I've against my will, developed a critical eye for film by doing this podcast.
Well,
and I engage with this movie differently than I might have if I just threw it on as an audience.
That might make sense though, because we as like critics who watch a shit ton of movies, we're saying like, oh, it's like Edgar Wright, it's like this, like other films where if you're just a general audience, this has it's hard to kind of define this movie. You know, is it straight comedy? Is it straight, coming of age? Is it straight? I don't know. It's maybe harder to just peg into like, I want to watch this kind of film, which I think more general audiences are geared toward.
It's always hard to peg, in my opinion. Yeah, let's hear what the critics' consensus has to say on this matter.
Vanilla Randy.
You got that tight butthole, huh, Randy?
Who are you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor?
Don't pucker.
Critics' consensus reads as follows.
Queen.
Oh my God. The rare comedy thriller that's funny as well as thrilling. Get Duped marks writer-director Ninian Doff's... Marks writer-director Ninian Doff as a filmmaker with a bright future. God, that was fucking hard for me to read for some reason.
Welcome to my life.
I do not agree that this was a very thrilling movie. Like, I don't know. Like, the thriller horror aspect is really not... I'm pretty hard to like...
Doesn't shine through.
Randy's pretty hard.
We're pretty seasoned. I'm pretty hard,
Randy's pretty seasoned.
I'll be stroking.
I don't know. It's tough to scare me, but like I can get like, oh, I'm thrilled. Oh my God, what's gonna happen? Like, there's no tension in this movie really to me. Like the most, maybe a very slight amount, but no more than you would get in a comedy that has a story.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled.
I'm thrilled.
I'm thrilled.
That's what I'd say.
Ninian, I'm thrilled.
All right.
Oh, Mr.
So
Doff.
plump, so right.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm seasoned,
All right,
Mr.
so there we
Doff.
Let's go.
That's a clip right there, Bob. You did it to yourself. That's the sound bomb now.
I always do.
All right. I'm going to read some negative reviews because they tend to be funnier, but it's a theory that's long since been shot down, really. All right. It's really an excuse for a lot of drug jokes and very dark humor. Some of it's so dark that it's not really funny, which for me to say is really quite something. I'm sorry, did the church lady just call?
Boo. That's not funny at all.
I'm hard to offend, but this very inoffensive movie offends me.
Damn, yeah, that was
You're
weak.
really not making a strong case for yourself being a purveyor of dark humor, my friend.
I mean, I get it, but it's just,
Too dark.
It's too dark. Man, this guy probably watched Mrs. Doubtfire and was like, whoa. Way too dark.
Mrs. Doubtfire's darker.
Actually, it's a much
this.
darker movie than this.
Dude looks like
That's a fair
lady. Point. Too dark.
Well, dude skeeves on his own children against his wife's will.
No, I understand the movie. I'm just making fun of the person that wrote that comment.
We're reviewing Miss
Bob. Come on now. It's actually genuinely a scarier movie than this one.
It is.
Have you seen that? Have you seen the trailer, recut trailer of this fucking of that fucking movie? It is so funny.
I think we could cover that movie as a.
I think that movie has a stronger argument for being horror than this one. It just isn't gory.
A Robin Williams poll pick for a month and just have like 3.
Well, now it's on the record, baby. I think you got to do it.
Do it.
It's an idea.
1 hour photo sitting right there.
Yeah.
Right there.
Father of the Year. That shit is dark.
I have not seen it, but its reputation precedes it.
It's heavy. What are we doing? Randy, you were doing a segment.
I don't know. It's done. I did the segment. It's over.
There's really not much trivia to speak of other than the original title of this movie was Boys in the Wood.
However, Death to Smoochie.
That too. But that was changed to Get Duked, which was the working title originally, but they went with Get Duked.
This is a much better title.
Yeah, that's really it. That's all. Everything else we already mentioned. So, but that's all we got for trivia. What else we got? We're talking Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'.
Order of the week!
Juice. What's a cooter and why do we hunt them?
Cooter is a character type and a straight, chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter, and we want the cooter with the most points. The 5 points of cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall look and attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, is there a British cooter in this British film?
I mean,
Not a strong
it's
one.
pretty.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
If it, and see, this might show like where some of the flaws come through, not because they can't write a cooter, but there's not a whole lot of development in most of these characters.
Yeah, I agree.
They're
with that.
just kind of things.
They're
Well.
things.
They're nothing but things to me. No, I think that if there's the first thing that comes to mind for me is going to be the cult, and if you want to put a face to it, then Eddie Izzard and his bride, bride of Izzard. Yeah, I think like they certainly hit the smug arrogance, like that's kind of part and parcel to their whole character.
Yeah.
The manipulation
people
certainly,
as
like they're
smug,
hunting
yes.
people to quote unquote cull the herd.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how much fucking culling 4 kids a year is, but whatever. I guess maybe
there's no sexual deviance. There's no kind of like real patheticness.
I mean, yeah,
Not of their own.
I mean, there's things that I would consider pathetic, but that are not like objectively pathetic.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think it's pretty fucking pathetic to need to hunt people to feel superior and to give a shit about like all this sort of horrible shit.
That's
but, I
like
mean,
smug arrogance, though.
Yeah, I feel like that falls more squarely into that category. So
They're
I think
more
it's a
arrogant.
The mask.
Also, like, but they also kind of
attire?
suck at their job. Yeah, the attire. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they are terrible shots.
Mhm.
Terrible shots, and they get their weapons taken from them, and they're all they can do is sit there and demean the kids in hopes that they'll hand them back over. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is all your own fault. Why don't you like all that shit?
I don't think they hit enough points, and I don't think anybody really does.
Arrogance, manipulation, and looking attire are there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they
That's
don't
3
feel,
points. I
they
just
don't
don't
feel strong though. They don't.
Manipulation.
They don't hit that X factor.
I don't know if they're really even manipulating anybody.
Yeah, they are. They're manipulating people into coming to the woods to be hunted.
I mean, are they just taking advantage of the situation though? They know kids are out there on their own. I don't know if they're actually behind. They call him the Duke, but I mean, I don't think they have created.
They said they've been
this
doing that
award
for years. Like,
Really? Yeah.
I don't know. Like, and that thing was like, I looked up that award. It's like, it was invented in the 50s or something. These people are at least old enough to be around in the 50s. You know?
I don't know. We can if you want to. I don't think there's enough to convict.
You know what? Personally, I think that you could definitely convict them. It's just, it's not the longest. It's like time served, maybe.
They're on like cooter parole. We got to check in.
Yeah.
They're on the bubble. Yeah.
Too bad there's
they're
not
on a house arrest.
I wish there was a little cooter slide for that police board. A little
dude. Yeah.
Move right to the top of the list.
If I had seen that in this movie, I would have shat every brick in my body.
5 stars.
We'll
not
get
very
there,
many.
boys. We'll get there eventually.
Straight to the top.
Yeah, eventually we'll go straight to the top.
One of the new
60% of the time.
one of the new hires for the passing coach for the Jaguars. His name is Jim Bob Cooter. We're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Straight to the Super Bowl.
God damn.
Oh my lord.
Jim Bob
Oh
Cooter.
God.
Wow. Yeah, I'm down with not convicting. It's too late. It's too late.
I guess I'm outvoted. I would say if they hit the 3, which I think they do.
The Supreme Court of Cooter says no. We got to let him go.
I dissent.
Throw him back. All right. Cooter free film. Let's go ahead and jump into what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randy, what you been watching?
Let's see. I've been watching a few things this week. Quickly, I'll mention that I watched a documentary called Beanie Mania, and I'm not really even sure why, but it's a documentary about the rise and fall of the Beanie Baby.
Oh my Lord.
It's filled with all of the thrills you might expect from a documentary about the Beanie Baby. It's fine. It was a little nostalgic. Didn't do much for me, to be perfectly honest. I went ahead and watched Last Night in Soho, interestingly enough, which kind of is the other half of
your end of the year
misses that I didn't get to be on the podcast for due to various situations. I will say, like, I liked it a lot, but I also think that maybe it was more stylish than it was substantive to me.
For sure.
And I don't know. I thought it was beautiful to look at. It was like expectedly like one of the best edited fucking films of the year, in my opinion. But, you know, there's maybe a little bit lacking in the point department.
Yeah, the ending was rough.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still feeling out my feelings about the ending in particular. But overall, I'll tell you this, man. I was in love with her little boyfriend. That dude ruled. John, I think his name was. That guy's fucking awesome. That's like...
Oh, okay. I was like, I thought you were talking about the pimp.
Oh, no.
Like, what?
No.
I gotcha. Yeah, that dude was dope. Yeah.
Boyfriend. And I really want to go to that fucking Halloween party.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
That show's dope.
Yeah. I watched two things that were not geared towards, but like kind of offshoots of children's programming. One of which is a live show that I got to see for Everything is Terrible. It's my third live show for the internet concern Everything is Terrible. This was their kids club edition of the live show where they did a bunch of, if you don't know what that is, then look it up on YouTube or elsewhere. They are basically an art collective group of like, I think 3 or 4 guys or people who find footage and recut it to be like really bizarre and hilarious. They've been doing it for years and years. It's one of my favorite things. It's very strange and you have to be in the right mood for it. But they did a live show with like giant crazy costumes and a little stage production, but mostly it was like a delivery service for a bunch of children's programming recut together in really bizarre and funny ways. Loved it. They're still touring, I believe. So if you look them up and get the chance to go safely, then please do. It'll be a good time for you. And it's very affordable. Let's see. In that same vein, I watched a show on, what I want to say it's Netflix called Saturday Morning All-Star Hits, which I was like kind of went into blind. I was just like, okay. And it's kind of a similar thing, except it's like a wholly made new show that is in the aesthetic of like Saturday morning kids cartoons from the 90s or 80s and 90s. But that's cool. It's like BoJacked a little bit, where it's like it's very adult situations happening interspliced with like silly, like, I don't know. It's like if you see those Adult Swim things, like late night off air stuff, it's kind of in that same vein where it's like, I can't believe like this is happening. Yeah. I mean, it's not that disturbing, my God. But it's kind of like, it's weirdly troubling. I watched like 3 or 4 episodes of that. And interestingly, every episode that I've seen so far has used the same like wraparound segment characters and the same like show characters. So they have like a talking dinosaur show and they have, I don't know, a couple other ones. I don't know. It gets a little dark sometimes, and that's where the real humor comes from. But it's like a really faithful recreation of those kinds of shows. It's really impressive, actually, in that respect. So I'm going to keep watching it and see how it goes.
Very interested in that.
I'm not sure I'm a fan of the serialization of it or not, but so far it's been good. And then let's see. Last but not least, I played and completed a couple of games. Couple of puzzle games, short games. One called Manifold Garden, which I think I've brought up before, which is like an insanely interesting puzzle game to me. It was like very trippy sort of thing where you like kind of like you can walk off an edge and then change your orientation so that like the ground becomes the ceiling.
Like change the axis and stuff.
Yeah, you change the axis of the level and you solve puzzles this way. It's in a very like void-ish space. It's not like a real space. It's tough to describe, but go look it up. It's visually stunning. It's very beautiful. I like it. It only took me, I don't know, like a few hours to beat. And it's a lot of fun. I like those sort of things. There's low stakes, but just kind of puzzly and still in an environment to explore. And then last was a very short puzzle game also called Donut County, which is much more in the vein of like a Katamari Damacy, where you play as a character who controls a little hole and you swallow things up and the hole gets bigger and you swallow up bigger and bigger things.
Yeah.
And it sounds stupid, but it's a lot of fun. And but it's very, very short. So that was it for me.
Sweet deal. Juice, what you been watching?
Dude, thanks to Russia's bullshit, I had a 15-hour flight instead of a 13.5-hour flight. So I've been watching a shit ton of stuff. I watched the first season of Royal Gemstones since everybody's been going on and on about that. So that was funny. I watched Scarface for the first time. Never seen that movie's long as shit. De Palma. And I will say I feel like that movie is a little overrated. I've been having a couple of those moments. Taxi Driver was another one where I was like, I don't know. Yeah, some of those, a lot of it's like dated in not the best ways. Specifically Scarface, I will say the soundtrack on that, not that great. I watched that new Sopranos movie, The Saints of Newark or whatever. Oof, man.
Yeah.
I don't know what someone was thinking on that one. Which is a shame because I thought the casting was like generally really solid, minus fucking Syl. Jesus Christ. But everybody else, I thought, like played their kind of young counterparts really well. And the dude who plays Tony, his kid or whatever, fucking nailed it. That should have been the whole movie. They should have followed that guy around as much as possible. And they did it. And that's fucking stupid. It was not that great. I watched Psycho again. Just, I don't know, because it was on there. That was good. Oh man. Okay. And the final one I'll talk about that I've been watching. I watched Rise of the Lycans, Underworld 3, kind of the prequel. Dude, not that terrible. And I think that needs to be our new Blade trilogy, the Underworld or OG trilogy. You know, we might need to do a
please don't. Oh my God. I'll do one at a time, but Jesus Christ.
6 hours of blue, Randy.
What can we do to
how much soft
to cover that
happens
trilogy
in that film?
Dude, if we can cover Blade trilogy, we can cover the Underworld trilogy.
Dude, I think Blade trilogy was more than enough of a gauntlet. I don't need to one up it.
Which is better? Which vampire trilogy of the early
Which kickboxing vampire film is better?
Let's find out. So I watched that, and actually fucking Bill Nye kicks ass, man. I mean, he's good. So I enjoyed it. Not as bad as I thought it was. So that's all I've been watching. Robert, what Precious Blues have you been watching this week?
No, I haven't had time to watch a whole lot of stuff. I watched the first
Hollywood Bomb.
Yeah, I know. The first couple episodes of that Kanye documentary that's on Netflix called Genius. I watched that.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's just fine. If you have an interest in young Kanye, I guess check it out. I watched it out of morbid curiosity, really, and I don't know. It's not like super enlightening. It's moderately entertaining.
Who you got, young Kanye or young Sheldon?
Young Sheldon? I've never seen that. I don't.
Me neither. But
I don't want to see that.
My proclivity is towards young Sheldon. I do not give a shit about this Kanye West show.
That's understandable. The only other thing I really have to talk about is a new Shudder original. It's called Hellbender. It just hit Shudder this past week. This movie is written, directed, produced, and starring the Addams family, like the real life. It's like a a mother, a father, and their kid, their like teenage daughter. They've made movies before, actually. I did a mini cast on the movie they did before this called The Deeper You Dig last year.
Okay, I didn't listen to that, but I have to clarify something here.
A real life.
When you say
Addams
it stars
family?
the Addams family, it's just a family whose last name are Addams?
Yes, that's correct.
So
Okay.
it's, okay.
That
The way
is-
you phrased that, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, the real people they're based on?
I should have clarified that. I apologize. Yeah, it's
We
it's
were
a
both
real.
very confused.
It's just a real family with the last name of Addams. And
Gotcha.
Okay.
like usually they refer to themselves as the Addams family. 1D, not 2Ds.
So they're not like sitting around sipping on arsenic or some shit.
No, they're real people.
Okay. Okay.
This is not an animated movie. Yeah, this is like real fucking people. Basically, Hellbender is about a mother and her daughter living sort of in isolation in the woods. And the daughter, it's a coming of age story. Basically, she's a teenage girl, and she sort of realizes that she is a witch, and so is her mother. And that's just sort of like in their family lineage. And her mother is trying to like isolate them because she's aware of their powers, and like if you don't really know how to like harness them, you could be a danger to those around you. And of course, the teenage girl runs into people of her age and wants to hang out and be a teenager and be normal, but she can't. So conflict ensues. I feel like the concept of this movie is good in the way it starts, is very strong, but it sort of just kind of lingers and ultimately doesn't have a very impactful conclusion. It's a strong premise though. I feel like it didn't totally deliver. I would recommend like The Deeper You Dig if you can find that. I think that is totally worth watching. It's probably streaming. I know Arrow Video put it out on Blu-ray as well. But if you're interested, if you did watch Hellbender and you want to see some more of the Addams Family stuff, check out The Deeper You Dig. I'd recommend that. Yeah, that's really all I've been watching though this week. We got one more segment. That is, of course, our Hotline Screams.
Hotline Scream.
If you're listening and would like to call in and leave us a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We have one voicemail. This is from Matt, but not that Matt. This is the other Matt. Let's hear what Matt has to say.
Hey guys, it's Matt. Two things. I'm fully on board for a Texas Chainsaw Massacre 10 Motherface, as long as it's starring, written, and directed by Glenn Danzig. Second, can we start doing a content warning whenever Heidelberg leaves a voicemail? That'd be great. That's all. Bye.
I don't know. Can you content warn a kink? Is that kosher?
No kink shaming.
Can't shame it, but
If
can
you're
we
letting your
warn it?
kids listen to us, get out of town.
I don't think that's for the kids. I just think that's for
It's
people who
for
don't
Matt.
want to hear about vegetables going in orifices.
Well,
Well, it was a fruit, Randy. Let's be fair.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to diminish the vegetable family.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Chocolate
sorry. I
covered.
thought this was America.
I have a daddy kink.
Now we know, Bob. God damn.
Oh,
Brings it up all the time.
Oh, we know.
Heidelberg's voicemail last week will live in infamy. It's become very clear.
Where do
been
you like to
mentioned
stick your
twice.
fruit? Call in.
Let us know.
What's
Tell
your
us
fruit
where
of
you put your
choice?
fruit. Do you like the cylinders? Do you like the squat little strawberries like Heidelberg?
What's your favorite fruit to sit on? We want to know.
Damn. Can it be a summer squash?
That's a vegetable.
Does it have to?
Come on,
I know.
I was
that's
just
what I'm saying,
dragged.
is-
I was just canceled for that. Okay.
Well, we don't know our basic food groups here at Straight Chilling. It's just ice cream, and that's it. That's all we eat.
Damn, I
We
wish.
sit on that all the time.
Let me sit on your cream. Thanks for calling.
My bum hole is so cold.
Glenn Danzig. I don't know about all that, buddy. Not for me. I just
No, I would not watch that.
I'll watch anything Glenn Danzig.
Did you watch that vampire movie, Bob?
No, man.
The House of the Vampire?
There's nowhere to see it. They did a very brief run of it with random art houses around the country, but they didn't come anywhere near Jacksonville. And it's not streaming anywhere. It's not on disc. You can't fucking see it. I don't know, man.
Well, that's a shame.
That's such a shame.
If I have any more fun today, I don't think I'm going to be able to take it.
Thanks for calling, Matt. Hope you are doing well, my friend. Again, if you guys want to call in, leave a voicemail. Hit us up at 904-638-3231. Do you guys have any prompts for next week you want to throw out there?
I don't think so.
Tell us. I don't know if you got some horror comedies you want to recommend. Now's the time.
I like that. Also, if you got any Mardi Gras stories, whether they take place in New Orleans or otherwise, call in. Let us know. Tomorrow,
Shaboy made jambalaya this week.
Ooh.
Whoa, Randy, don't tease me.
And got a king cake. My ass is about to be noled.
Wonder if I can get a king cake in Korea.
Apparently, you can have them shipped. That's what I was told.
It might be a little late. Mardi Gras is in 2 hours. So, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know if it's gonna make it. Horror comedies. Let us know what you like. Mardi Gras stories. Share them. Let us know. Where do you stick your king cake? What hole does it go into?
Would a Cinnabon count?
Business.
Yes.
Can I get a Cinnabon and count it?
No.
Sure. Call that a jester cake.
No.
Yeah.
They are delicious.
I'll put some green and purple on there. We'll call it a day.
We'll call it.
That's all it takes.
Got myself a king cake. They got the Cinnabon in Korea?
Oh, yeah. I can get myself Cinnabon.
Oh, thank God for that.
And get some Krispy Kremes. I can get some Dunkin'.
Some grinding.
And I can get a Cinnabon.
Hallelujah.
All right.
Baskin Robbins. I got it.
Just keep naming them. Just keep telling us all the American shit you can get in Korea.
Yes.
That is going to do it for us this week here at Straight Chilling. We will be back next week with a brand new show as always. We're going to be talking about a classic horror movie next show. You may have heard Nosferatu, the original Nosferatu from 100 years ago. Fucking turned 100. Fucking turned 100.
And somehow it's not even the oldest movie we've covered on this cast.
Somehow.
Yeah, that is true. Anyway,
because we covered Caligari 3 years ago, and that was its 100th.
Yeah. The 1922 version of Nosferatu, very easy to find. It's on disc. It's streaming. I think it's even on YouTube. Actually, I think you just watch it on YouTube.
I think so. Yeah.
Almost certainly. It's out of copyright. So
yeah, it is.
So I own it now.
It's a century old.
We all own it collectively.
Yeah,
I own it the most.
Interesting. European style.
German style. Slam your eyeballs into Nosferatu. We're going to be getting weird and silent with it next week. Hope you're ready for that. Silent podcast.
It's gonna be a silent podcast in
great.
solidarity with the film.
Damn.
Yeah. Check that out. Until next week, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join in on our daily Slack channel conversations, just hit us up on one of those social media outlets. I'll send you a link so you can join in on the fun. Slam Nosferatu into your eyeballs. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.